between us, so we're probably at about, somewhere around the 15-ish thousand, and then he's probably around, the thing is probably around that 11, 12,000, somewhere around there. So I go, well, best way to fix a two-circle fight, so he's on the opposite side of the circle, is cut across the middle of the circle. So I go nose low and cut across the circle and pull lead on it. So if I'm at the 8 o'clock, think of it as I point my nose down and I'm going to cut across the bottom. I'm going to make a big scoop out of the bottom of it. And I'm going kind of over towards 3 o'clock because I want to kind of be over there when he gets there.
Mm-hmm.
And as we start pulling nose up, the thing rapidly accelerates, like from just this nice, easy kind of mirroring our speed to poof, it's gone as it crosses our nose. It just disappears. So we're like, I asked the other airplane, I go, hey, do you guys see that? And they're like, it's gone. We have no. Now, keep in mind, they're still above us.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like, we have different perspectives of the object, and the object, we both see it just take off and disappear. So we're like, all right, now I'm pretty weirded out. So I said, hey, well, let's turn around and see what was in the water, because we're right there.
Mm-hmm.
So we basically just turned the airplanes around real quick, and there's nothing. There's no disturbance. There's no white water. As far as you can see, there's nothing. So we kind of turn, and I'm like, well, look at the clock, but we got to get some training done. And I told my backseater, I said, dude, I'm pretty weirded out. I said, that's odd. So, and the controller's hearing all this. So I remember telling the controller, I said, hey, please tell me that you guys are going to strip the radar tapes. And throughout this, he's been telling us, hey, sir, we've been tracking these things for like 2 weeks since we got out here. We got out
really?
at the beginning of the month. Remember, we got out at the beginning of November. It was a 2-month at sea. Remember us fighting to get home for Thanksgiving?
Yeah.
So he says, yeah, we've been tracking these things. They've been coming from basically 80,000 feet or above 80,000 feet, coming straight down and hanging out at like 20,000 feet. And they had been tracking like up to, multiple, I think it was like up to 10. And then they would hang out for a little bit, and then they would go back up. And this was the first time that they had manned airplanes airborne when these things showed up, which was, it happens to be us. I don't know if that's lucky or unlucky, but my life would have been just fine if this never happened. So I said, well, hey, we're going to go back to the cap, which is our hold point for the exercise. And meanwhile, the Marines are still hanging out. They're 100 miles south of the ship, just kind of doing circles in the sky. Mm-hmm. And the controller comes up. He says, sir, you're not going to believe this, but that thing is back at your cap point. And we're like, oh, great. So we end up getting to the cap. We don't see it. We do the exercise, and we go back and land. When we had landed, we were in the PR shop, and one of our crews was getting ready to launch, and we're telling them this, and they're like, So Chad Underwood, nuts, goes, hey, I'm going to get video of this thing. And that's actually the video that you see. The video is taken by him. We chased it visually. The one regret of the whole side from my point of view was that because we never used the helmet cam on the joint helmet because it was just nauseating to try and watch on a screen.
All right, the rest of what he goes on with is just basically their chit-chat going on. Now, what I want to try, Kev, while I was sitting here and we were playing that, and that was an actual interview pretty much like the one you had listened to earlier. He describes the same thing. What's interesting in this one, or in the actual feed from the Pentagon, is they state there's a fleet of them. But let me see if I can. What I want to do here. There we go, Pentagon. So if I do this, give me just a moment, you should be able to hear the audio from the Pentagon.
Yeah. On, bro.
I can definitely hear something.
On the ASA.
Oh, wow.
They're all going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots from the west. Look at that thing, dude. That's not our LNS, though, is it? It's not. That is the LNS, dude. Well, if there's like... Look at that thing. It's rotating. Nickel 6-1 Tango Roger, over. Oh, got it! Woohoo! Roger, there's troubleshooting. Did you box moving target? No, I took an auto track. Oh, okay. Oh my gosh, dude. Wow, look at that, man. Look at that.
All right, this is the... Oh, in that mode, I got a wicked echo because it bounced back with my own voice the way I played it. All right. This is the audio I was talking about that the Pentagon cut the rest of it off. And, of course, that's the part we always want to hear. But what's amazing now, were you able to hear that clearly, Kev?
Not clearly, but I got a good amount of it.
Okay. Well, what's amazing is that is 2 Navy pilots eyewitnessing an actual UFO that they've got footage on. I don't know if you're able to click the video that I put up in the chat mode, but if you get the chance, that's the actual Pentagon video, and it's amazing because they're talking about spinning it in place as it's moving forward, and you're seeing it on video. You get to see what they were actually looking at and witnessing, but in my opinion, this is like the first real UFO evidence that's ever been presented. And I've read up on everything on Earth. There are some interesting NASA footages of things moving around in the backgrounds of cameras, but nothing this defined. Now, did you watch the video that was on the Joe Rogan interview?
Absolutely, I did.
Okay, so it's the same thing that we're talking about. What do you think? Do you think it's possibly some advanced human technology, or do you think that's from some other world?
Well, here's the thing. The idea of it being advanced human technology is a possibility. And I've said this to people before every time that they blame aliens or say that aliens did certain things like building the pyramids and stuff. I'm like, all it takes is one person that's intelligent to figure out how to do something. And other people to follow and listen to their directions and instructions. And that's how shit gets done. Pardon my language. But that's the reality of the world we live in. Now, what I saw on the video, that's a completely different story. And the guy in the interview even said it. We're talking about an object that was hovering, that went from hovering to disappearing and then reappearing where he started from. But it was clearly moving, it clearly moved at a speed that sent it off. That means it was propelled, but no one knows what it was propelled by. Honestly, when I saw the video, it reminded me of something that my friend said to me a long time ago about superpowers. And someone told me the best superpower I could possibly have is the ability to stand completely still and phase through objects, to which we all thought was the stupidest superpower in the world until we realized that if you could stand completely still, the earth would literally move around you. And then you'd be wherever you want to be as long as you didn't hit anything on the way.
Right, because in our universe, there's no singular stationary objects. Everything is in motion.
Exactly. And in my mind, seeing something just, oh my God. The thing appeared and then it was on the other side, but the monitors on the machines and equipment in the plane clearly said that it was propelled that way. They just couldn't pick up on what the propulsion was, and it wasn't heat. I have never heard of that kind of technology. And I've done a lot of studying on electric railguns, electromagnetic railguns and things like that. I've done a lot of studying on these things because I love movies, especially movies that have science in them. And I've never heard of anything moving like that. Even obviously I've heard a lot of things moving like that scientifically, in sci-fi books and stuff. But I've never heard of anything realistically moving like that without falling to pieces from the propulsion by itself.
Yeah, if it was a piloted unit with human beings, they would be dead. The way that it could go forward, the velocity that it had was ridiculous. And then it could instantly come back, and then it could go left or right, like sliding, not like a bank turn or steering. As you said, the physics of
not even like a helicopter. This thing was an actual, just it was gliding. The air itself was keeping it up.
Right. It has some kind of anti-gravity device inside.
Absolutely.
But even being, I mean, I don't even think there's any, because of how rapidly it stops and takes off. I used to work for the warranty department for Troy-built rototillers. And what would happen is if you had something on your machine that you thought was a defect in manufacturing, you called and argued with us. And we spent a lot of time with Rockwell hardness, everything from weld quality to mass quality. There's not many materials, I don't know of any, that could take that kind of abrupt stop, start. Because what you're doing is you're constantly redirecting your fight of gravity.
Yeah.
But I wonder, see, there must be more video on it. I mean, there must be more government information on that itself, because I find it hard to believe that they discovered these totally beyond human ability super flying machines out over the ocean, and the only investigation was this one.
Not to mention, the guy says in the Joe Rogan interview, he was like, there was no men in black suits showing up to tell us not to say anything and making us sign, what the hell is it, NDRs or whatever.
You should probably figure no one's going to believe you anyways.
Yeah, and I love the military too. Like, I love how the military was like, even though there was no one showing up in black suits to tell us to shut the fuck up and mind our business, we were still like, this is some shit I didn't even tell my motherfucking kids until I thought I was coming out in Newsweek. Like, I didn't tell my wife or my mother-in-law until I absolutely had to. Now, that is some training.
Yeah, what would be the worst is if that's one of our enemies' pieces of technology.
That is a scary thought, actually. Like, the only thing that would scare me about that, like, other than the fact that that technology existed and was in the hands of our enemies, was the person who developed it.
Well, it's like the movie Independence Day. That supposition is used a million times that we found this technology and reverse engineered it. Now, the Chinese are awesome at reverse engineering. I don't know if anyone remembers early 2000s, one of our special, they're not U-2 jets anymore. I think they're even beyond the stealth jet, but it was one of our top secret spy jets, crash lands in China. China, if I remember, took 6 months to give us that jet back, and it was completely pulled apart. They went through and they reverse engineered it. Now they have some of the most advanced planes, the most advanced computer chips. They make transistors. They make their own resistors now. Actually, they make them for the entire world. The only way I build my own effect pedal distortion boxes for guitar. The only way I can get real made germanium transistors is by buying ancient equipment and pulling them out of it. Everything pretty much electronically is made in China. Or Russia. I would hate to see Putin having that kind of power. Oh, he's a temperamental SOB.
Oh, without a doubt.
Well, here's what's funny. They all wanted to think that Trump was one of the most warlike presidents ever, or leaders of the world. No, Putin, everybody forgets, Putin's main training was the KGB Boy Scout camp.
Oh, my God.
Oh, he was the head of the KGB intelligence agency up until 92, when the Soviet Union dissolved, fell apart, went bankrupt.
Wall came down. Yeah. I recall, not very well because I was kind of tiny at the time.
Well, they went through 3 or 4 leaders, and then out of nowhere, Putin is the new leader. Now, Putin's been the leader of Russia, I think, since the mid to late 90s. They don't recirculate every 4 years like we do.
Yeah, I don't really I understand that, and I don't really blame them for that. I mean, it's another country, and I don't know how it works over there, but if it works for you, you're